Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Melanie Cassar, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Petty Officer Ronnie Tullypan. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Harold Horace Kennedy. Harold Kennedy was born on the 24th of April 1878 in Franklin, Tasmania. He was one of 13 children born to local storekeeper Abraham Kennedy and his wife Ellen. He received his education at Franklin State School and later at Friends High School in Hobart, where he was a well-known athlete and footballer. On completion of his education, he took up work as a farmer. When the First World War broke out in 1914, Harold Kennedy was living in Victoria. He enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force from Melbourne on the 4th of October 1915 and was assigned to the 2nd Reinforcements of the 51st Battalion with the rank of private. He embarked for active service from Melbourne on the 7th of March 1916, travelling via Fremantle, where he boarded the troop ship Aeneas, bound for the Western Front. Private Kennedy arrived in England in early June, where he proceeded to camp to continue his training. He joined his comrades in the frontline trenches in August, where his unit had been involved in fierce fighting around the French village of Pozières. He took part in his first major battle of the war just weeks later, on the 3rd of September, as Allied forces attacked enemy positions at Mouquet Farm. Kennedy survived the carnage of his first battle, only to fall ill soon after. He was sent to hospital for several weeks and rejoined his unit in Belgium in early October that year. He spent the weeks which followed engaged in trench repairs and improvements, as well as training behind the lines. Like many others who succumbed to the difficult conditions of trench life, Kennedy found himself in hospital again in late November. He remained in hospital until the new year, avoiding a bitterly cold winter in the front lines. Early 1917 was marked by the German strategic withdrawal to the fortified Hindenburg Line. Their retreat was eagerly followed by Allied units who seized their opportunity to push the enemy back. In advancing on the Germans, these units were confronted by well-prepared rearguard defences and booby-trapped towns, which resulted in a series of bloody clashes between Allied forces and the enemy. Private Kennedy's unit was involved in one such clash when they attacked fortified enemy positions in the village of Narroy in early 1917, which resulted in days of bloody fighting. Kennedy's unit was transferred to the Ypres salient later that year as the focus of Allied operations switched to the Belgian front. Briefly hospitalised with exhaustion, Kennedy missed his unit attack at Messines in June, but returned to the front line for the next attack at Polygon Wood. Here, Kennedy was wounded in action as his unit advanced on their objectives. Suffering a gunshot wound to his left leg, he was evacuated to England to recover in hospital. He remained there until Christmas Eve 1917, when he rejoined the 51st Battalion at the front, spending a cold winter in the trenches. In March 1918, the Germans launched a major offensive along the Western Front. Kennedy's division was moved into positions around the village of Dernancourt, where they later helped to repulse a major enemy attack on the 5th of April. The threat of an enemy breakthrough was realised later that month when the Germans succeeded in capturing the vital town of Villers-Bretonneux on the 24th of April 1918. Orders were given for the 13th and 15th Australian Brigades to recapture that town the same day to prevent the enemy from further entrenching themselves. The 2 Australian brigades sought to encircle the town whilst British infantry cleared it of the enemy. As they advanced, the Australian units came under fire along their flank from an area they believed was clear of the enemy. Attempting to make his way through the barbed wire, Private Kennedy was hit by machine gun fire and was killed instantly. His death came on the morning of his 40th birthday. The Australians eventually successfully secured the town by the 26th of April at a cost of almost 2,500 casualties. The 51st Battalion's chaplain wrote to Private Kennedy's family after his death, saying, "I wish to convey to you the sincere sympathy of all officers and men of the 13th Brigade. He took part in one of the greatest actions of the war in the retaking of Villers-Bretonneux on the 24th of April 1918. All did splendidly, going forward in the face of great machine gun fire and secured a real victory. I trust that it will be some consolation to you to feel that he took part in and helped to secure such an important success." Private Harold Kennedy's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Harold Horace Kennedy, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We particularly appreciate your visit despite the challenges posed by COVID and wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.